What is going on, nerds? Today I'm talking about the upcoming set Twilight Masquerade, which might be the best set since 2017's Guardians Rising. It's headlined by Dragapult EX, which is a 320 HP dragon type, meaning it has no weakness and can survive a lot of attacks due to that. That has some amazing attacks. For one colorless, it does 70 damage, or for a fire and a psychic, it does 200 damage. And then you can put 6 damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon in any way you like. Which is really useful against a lot of 60 HP basics. People are going to have to start playing 70 HP basics, but if they do, you just use Radiant Alakazam to move the damage over to those and knock those out too. It can't even be blocked by Jirachi, because Jirachi only blocks basic Pokemon. Now this would be meta on its own, but naturally they decided they had to give it a pre-evolution that's insane. It has the ability where once per turn you can look at the top 2 cards in your deck, put one in your hand, and put the other on the bottom of your deck. This is a really solid ability, and means that Dragapult is actually going to be the new best deck in format. Yes, better than Charizard. Results in Japan show for it. It's just so powerful to be able to put 6 damage counters in play and do 200 to the active. You compare that to something like Dragapult VMAX, which did 70 less damage to the active and 1 less damage counter to the bench. And it's night and day. It's a ridiculous deck. Now, some sets, such as Fusion Strike, are really good, but only really have a headlining Pokemon that is powerful, such as Mew VMAX being the really powerful Pokemon for Fusion Strike. Or there's some other sets like Paldea Evolve that have a bunch of support cards, but the best attacker is like Chi and Pao, which is meta, but it's not the best deck. This one has a new best deck and a bunch of other amazing cards. First one that's kind of interesting is Monkey Dory, which is actually kind of a counter to Dragapult, but not quite good enough to make Dragapult no longer good. Has the ability that has a dark energy attached to it. Yes, psychic type, so it's a little awkward, but it's not too hard to do because of Earth and Vessel. Then once per turn, you may move 3 damage counters from one of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. This is huge in Guardian EX because Drifloon with a Bravery Charm does 300 damage after you max it out with energy. But then use Monkey Dory to put 3 more, and now you knock out both a Dragapult EX and a Charizard EX. This is also good in something like an Articuno deck, which Articuno paralyzes, but it also damages itself. But here, you can heal Articuno off so you never knock yourself out and leave your opponent in infinite paralysis lock. And there's another Pokemon that plays Monkey Dory, and that's Blissy EX, which is a 300 HP Stage 1. Pretty big, with a good ability and attack. Its ability, once per turn, you may move an energy from one of your Pokemon to another. Which essentially means you can move energy around to your Monkey Dories really easily. And then for 3 colors, there's 180, and you may draw until you have 6 cards in hand. Dragapult really has trouble beating this, because you can Chance Care to keep healing, you have consistency by drawing a hand, and you have Monkey Dory to heal off bench damage from Dragapult. And Chansey has a lot of HP, so it's just really hard to beat Blissy EX, but overall, its matchups aren't great against everything, however, it is still a brand new meta threat. Amazing how they're printing multiple meta decks. Oh, and you know how I mentioned Guardia earlier? With the Monkey Dory? Well, Monkey Dory, along with Hyper Aroma, used to get to play Hero's Cape as your A-Spec in Guardia just because you needed to have more HP to knock out. But now that you have Monkey Dory gone, you can play Hyper Aroma, which has the effect that you search for 3 Stage 1s. So you can use an Arvin to get 3 Stage 1s and a Bravery Charm, and get your entire board set up with Curlias, which is really powerful. They also released a lot of control cards, weirdly. First one is Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon, which takes no damage from Pokemon with abilities. Which is just really powerful. You put in the active, and something like Charizard EX can't hit it. However, Charizard EX is no longer as good as it was before because of Dragapult, and since Dragapult doesn't have an ability, this might not see too much play, but it's still very useful in some kind of stall deck. Greninja EX is also kind of control-ass Pokemon. For 1 water, it does 170, and you can search for any card. And then for a water and 2 colorless, it does 120 to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. And then you discard 2 energy from it. Has 310 HP, and it's fighting type, so it's weakness on Arceus. So you can actually one-hit an Arceus or Miraidon. Miraidon and Iron Hands as well. All of those are good decks right now. So it's pretty solid, and either searching for a card or doing damage to multiple things is good. There's also a Frostlass in the set that puts a damage counter on each Pokemon with an ability between turns. It does hurt your own, but if you can place that many damage counters, then the 120 Snipe to 2 Pokemon from Greninja can take some big knockouts after your Frost Glasses that you each have down, knock out Manaphy's in between turn. Another control card, I don't know why there's so many of these, but they had to make control good. Thorn EX. It has the ability that as long as it's active, Pokemon with a rule box on your opponent's side of the field have no abilities. Has 230 HP and free cost 4, meaning you can use Heavy Baton, which is important for the next attack, which for a Lightning and 2 colorless is 140, and then move an energy from it to one of your bench Pokemon. So you're shutting off abilities while doing relatively solid damage, which is actually enough to knock out a Pidgeot EX, which is a very powerful card right now. And it could be really useful to shut things down. The tough thing is Dragapult is not super reliant on abilities, which lowers the power of Iron Thorns. As you can see, Dragapult can beat almost anything. What's weird, this is not specifically a control card, but it's mostly used in control decks. Blood Moon Ursaluna EX, a 260 HP basic, which is humongous. I don't know why they made it that big. That's shocking. That has the ability, similar to Radiant Charizard, where for each prize card your opponent has taken, its attack costs colorless less. Then for 5 colorless, which your opponent takes 5 prizes, is completely free. It does 240 and then can't attack next turn. Which is just some solid damage, and control decks that don't want to play Fire Energy, or want to have a 2-prize attacker with high HP, something to loop with Penny, can play this. And it's just really useful to do solid damage and knock out stuff. And why do they have to keep releasing control cards? What? There's a flute here. This flute goes in stall. Look at the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck. Put any basic Pokemon you find there on their bench. Well, great. Now Snorlax can just trap so many more things. That deck needs to be better. It's crazy. And another control card, Enhanced Hammer. Discard special energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon. So any special energy decks, now you can control them. And this is not even just good in control decks. Decks like Dragapult are playing this to beat Lugia. And then there's Handheld Fan, which Pokemon's attached to. If it's damaged, you get to move an energy from the Pokemon that damaged it to the bench. So Dragapult damaged you, you're like, sure, I'll take that fire energy off the Dragapult, and I'll put it on a bench Pokemon that is completely useless to you. And all on top of Blissy Ex, which control plays, which if Blissy Ex is damaged, you have to discard an energy. Now you hit Blissy Ex, you have to discard an energy, and move an energy to one of your bench Pokemon, which is dangerous. Then Jamming Tower. How many of these are there? This one just says tools have no effect. Simple as that. Tools in play have no effect. So, essentially it shuts down tools. And tools are very important in this format. They've been important for a while, especially with Arvin being so popular. And then they've got Unfair Stamp, which is kind of a control card, but it's really for any deck. This is probably the best A-Spec in the set. And being an A-Spec means you can only play one, but that's okay. It says, if one of your Pokemon was knocked out last turn, shuffle your hand to your deck and draw 5. Your opponent shuffles in and draws 2. So you have kind of a slow deck, but your opponent has a fast deck. They get an early knockout. You Unfair Stamp. They can often just get locked out of the game from the very beginning, which makes their opponent really have to consider if they want to knock you out early or if they want to start falling behind by not knocking you out early. And then there's 2 other really good A-Specs. First one is one that a lot of Dragapult builds play. Some play Unfair Stamp, but some play Scoop Up Cyclone, which simply says pick up one of your Pokemon and all attached cards and put it into your hand. So if you can just pick up a Pokemon, that's pretty powerful. And then you can immediately evolve it. So if you earn Dragapult, which only costs 2 energy, use something like Xatu or Charizard EX to get 1 energy on it, you Scoop Up Cyclone, heal your Dragapult, and then put it right back down on a benched Dracloak. And now you've got a whole new Pokemon set up. And since you have so much HP and no weakness, you're probably surviving. So this is going to get a lot of use. And finally, the reason that Lugia is actually good again, because, Lugia was okay, but now it's one of the best decks. Legacy Energy. Legacy Energy is essentially a Rainbow Energy, a spec, which means Archeops can use it as Rainbow Energy, which is huge, because you can power up something like Iron Hands. Since you can't really use Luminous Energy right now to power up Iron Hands, since you can't touch other special energy, but this, sure, I'll power up an Iron Hands with this. And on top of that, just powering up Iron Hands would be enough for them to play its A-Spec. But it also has the effect that if the Pokemon's attached to is knocked out, your opponent takes 1 less prize. So your Iron Hands is taking an extra prize for its knockout. Then they knock you out in turn and they only take 1 prize. That's crazy. That makes Lugia so much better and is by far the best A-Spec. And overall, this set just has so many good cards. I mean, look at all this list. All of these. How many cards are going to release in this set that are absolutely meta-defining? And that's why I think this is the best set since 2017. Now tell me in the comments what you think. Are there any cards I missed that you think are meta? Do you disagree with any of my opinions? Let me know. And I'll see you. And maybe watch the video on screen where I talk about an interesting deck that I created recently. See ya.